at this face and listening to this voice, you are tuned into the best kept secret in sports talk. I'm your friendly neighborhood smoking. You are officially on the hot seat. What we doing in the hot seat? We set somebody's ass on fire. And lately it's been Florida State, so we're gonna stick and stay with that. Just gonna, I guess, give my synopsis over the first half of the season. We're gonna discuss, I guess, the next 5 games down the stretch and where the team currently is as a whole right now during the bye week, of course. So, yeah, paying homage to the ghost over my left and my right shoulder. Without any further ado, man, let's get to it. You came for the gospel. I got something for your ass this week, man. Ding ding, classes in session. So, Florida State stands at 4-3 after the loss to Clemson last Saturday. Um, didn't come to you all last weekend after the game. Felt as if I was going to be regurgitating a lot of the things I had said the previous 2 weeks, so I didn't want to be the dead horse, so I left it where it was. Didn't plan on being here this week, but been seeing a lot. And before I get there, let me pause here. You know why these type of shows that are important, like what I'm doing here, like you listen to Brandon and you listen to Sam on the Listen Up podcast, and y'all go check those guys out if you haven't. They do amazing work for Florida State. But you want to know why these types of shows are important? We have no sponsors. We're unfiltered. We can say whatever the fuck we want to say, right? That was the premise of why I created this channel, because people will do their best to think for you, right? In the sense of they don't believe you can think for yourself. Like they don't believe you can trust your own eyes and your own ears. And I've been reading a lot, whether it be certain FSU publications, whether it be message boards, whether it be discords, chat rooms, whether it be different shows, podcasts, or whatnot. I've been hearing a lot, and it has been bothering the shit out of me, because it's almost as if these people don't want to look at Florida State for what they currently are. Some people do, right? You have some people going to come out here and give you the truth, but again, like I said, there are no sponsors here. I don't have a relationship with the head coach, so I don't have to water down and sugarcoat what my message and what I say every week. I don't have a relationship with any type of sponsors or anything of that nature, any type of boosters. I can say whatever the fuck I feel. And again, the premise was to offer an alternative way of thinking and seeing things and looking at things, not necessarily telling you how to look, but just giving you another avenue to travel down when you are assessing certain things. And the consensus is, I call it the consensus based off what I've heard over the last week, is people want FSU to be okay with being 4-3. I'm not going to tell you how to be a fan. I'm not going to tell you what you should subject yourself to and what you shouldn't. I'm not going to tell you what you should deem acceptable and what you shouldn't, right? That's not my place. But if we are to trust the climb, people, what the fuck are we climbing? What the hell is FSU climbing? How steep of a fucking hill or a mountain is this? I had been talking for a few weeks about this 3-game stretch, one game in particular, and how I thought it was going to be a telltale sign of who Florida State was at present moment. And based off what I saw over the last 3 weeks, Florida State isn't too far off from what we saw last season. And that bothers me. Florida State is 4-3. I think at this time last season they were 3-4. So a 1-game difference in the win column. I think so. Let's go back to the 3-game stretch, right? Florida State should be at the very least 5-2. People 5-2 look way better than 4-3. And this isn't an attempt to pound on the coaching staff. This won't be an attempt to pound on the players. Pounded on both of them collectively, because there is no fucking reason why Florida State should be 4-3. But there are people who are going to tell you that that's okay, right? And I guess 4-3 is okay. It's average. Yeah, I'm not accepting that shit. You can. It's your business if you want to. I have no quarrel with that. I'm not, because the team that was 4-0, the team that changed or started to change the trajectory of everybody's thoughts and predictions and things of that nature for the duration of the season, that team is gone. I haven't seen that team. I haven't seen those coaches. Something has changed here. They've taken one step forward and taken two steps backwards. I have not. This has not been a secret if you've been watching this show. I circled the NC State game for a reason, because even though you're going on the road in a hostile environment against a place that hasn't been too kind of Florida State in the past, that was a winnable game against a well-coached, good defensive, good sound football team. But you were more talented. You had the momentum, and you should have won that fucking game. People will tell you that there are reasons why FSU lost that game, and it has little to do with what you probably believe. Nah, it doesn't. I want you to know. I want you to know that it's okay to want your team not to blow a 14-point lead. I want you to know that that's fine. I want you to know that it's okay to have the expectation for your team to be the football team who can complete a pass for over a quarter and a half. I want you to understand that if Syracuse can take advantage of Leary not playing, your team too can take advantage of Leary not playing. It's okay to have those expectations. Because if you can't, why in the hell did you go 4-0 to begin with? 4-0 changes things. It changed a lot. 4-0 got you, like I said before, Doak Campbell was sold out to watch Florida State play BC. Come on, people. That's what winning does. You understand? And no more victories, right? I can't tell because the Clemson game seemed real morally, more I'm going to create a word here, morally victorious to me. Even though the head coach came out and said we don't have any more victories here. You listen to people, it sounds different. And that score was not indicative of how the game went at all. There were head-scratching things going on in that entire game. And I asked the last time, when can we expect Florida State to be in mid-season form? Mid-season is gone. The middle part of the season is gone. I've asked, when can we expect Florida State to look like a team that's going to put it all together and start a game and finish a game, meaning play 4 entire quarters? We have yet to see that, and half of the season is already gone. It's not unfair for us to ask those questions and have expectations for these things to happen. It's not unfair. People really want you to believe that injuries are playing a part. Okay, let's talk about that. You have key pieces missing. You have guys who are beat up. Fine. One thing I haven't heard anybody discuss is this. Florida State has had enough to win. So I'm not saying that the injuries don't matter, right? Because if Lovett plays, if Scott is fully healthy throughout that 3-game stretch, if guys are healthy, they'll probably help you win the game, but they aren't the reason why you lost it. You had enough to win all 3 games. Because from the game I saw at one point, the game against Clemson, Florida State had them on the ropes. Maybe a quarter and a half. Florida State was keeping up. That offensive line was playing amazing. You lost your best running back, and you were still able to move the ball on the ground. There were things Florida State was doing. And I'm not going to say Clemson didn't have an answer for it. I think Florida State had been doing something in that game what I had been wanting to do for the entire season, which is take what the defense gave them. And I'm not trying to speak in hyperbole. I'm not trying to exaggerate. To me, it looks like for at least the first half, our offensive line punched their vaunted defensive line in the mouth. Florida State was able to do things that none of us thought they could do. And they still found a way to lose it. That fumble didn't help. That goddamn fake punt. My goodness. Like, you're not, if you're so injured and you know this, why aren't you playing complimentary football? Why would you do a fake punt in that situation knowing that we probably aren't going to be able to stop these guys consistently on defense? That's not complimentary football. If you were so injured and you know that, why not do things and make it harder for Clemson to score for it? And so at least make them go the length of the field in order to get touchdowns, right? So it's so frustrating because you look at Florida State's, I think, second touchdown in that game. That was beautiful. That The way Florida State went down the field, I think it was a 90-plus yard drive over. I know at least over 10 plays, and it's like, you know what? Florida State can probably win this game. Not expecting them to win. I wasn't favoring them to win it at any point of the game. I'm just saying that game wasn't as out of touch as people would have liked for it to have been, or thought for it to have been at that juncture in the game. That second touchdown Florida State scored, it was amazing. And when you see those things, you see the potential. And that's what's so fucking frustrating about watching Florida State. You see the potential. And when it's time to put it together, they fold like a goddamn church chair. I don't want to hear any shit about the team fighting. The team doesn't give up. Whoop, they fucking do. They're not supposed to. Great. Finish. Getting cute in the red zone. It's almost as if a microcosm of that 3-game stretch was Jordan Travis' 2 attempts in the end zone to Jordan Wilson. Those were terrible goddamn throws. Yeah, terrible throws to a guy who has a damn near 7-foot wingspan, and you came up empty both times. Like, it's shit like that makes you scratch your head like, what the hell are we doing, people? And like I said, it's not just the Clemson game. You had more talent than Wake Forest, and you had more talent than NC State, and you still found a way to lose those games. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to want more. It's okay to expect more because they've shown you that they can give more. Florida State has shown you on multiple occasions this season that they can be better than 4-3. Florida State has shown you on multiple occasions that they should have won at least one of those 3 games. I told you the team was going to tell me exactly who they were at that NC State game. I found out everything I needed to know. And for the second time, this isn't me pouncing on the coaches. This isn't me pouncing on the players. I'm on both of their asses. Pause. They both here are culpable, and I'm not going to let anybody off the hook. That's not what we do here on this show. There have been opportunities, there have been times, there have been windows in which you could have grabbed games by the horns and you could have won and you didn't. I cannot continue to come in up here every fucking week and tell you about Mike Norvell teaching this team how to stop losing. Okay, great. We've gotten past that. Now we're talking about teaching the team how to win. And it's at the same time he's learning how to win. Like one of the questions that aren't going away anytime soon is he the guy for the job? Well, when you make bonehead decisions like you do in these types of games, you know, you're not getting anybody on your side. And for the record, I want him to be the guy because I do not want to go through another goddamn coaching search. I don't. It's like pulling teeth. I'd much rather drive nails through my eyelids. I do not want Florida State to go through another goddamn coaching search. And you have to ask yourself, do you trust this team, coaching staff and players, to finish strongly in these last 5 games? Because these last 5 games are super crucial. You want to know why they're super crucial? Because you went 0-3 in the toughest stretch of the goddamn season. That's why. Because even if they finish 7-5, right? A lot of people are predicting that if it's 7-5, that meant after going 4-0, you finished 3-5. You lost all momentum. How much does 7-5 help recruiting? Listen, as much as people try to put a Band-Aid on it and water down what happened with those recruits at Clemson, that shit was bad. That shit was really bad. Florida State, they got out-coached. They got out-played for a duration of that game, and the people left, and those recruits saw it. Some of those recruits were left themselves, and I've seen some of the conversations via text message of what was being said. People, it's not good. That was a bad showing. That was a bad time to just take off a quarter and a half. I don't want to say a quarter and a half, but that was a bad time to have a 8 to 10 minute stretch that was pure fucking shit. It was a really bad time because you were in the game. You had the crowd in the game. You had everything going your way. And I get it. It's football. Mistakes happen. And for the most part, and not for the most part, Clemson is the better team. That's fine. Okay, if you're okay with them being the better team, how in the hell are you okay with them losing to Wake Forest and NC State? Because on paper, at the very least on paper, Florida State was the better team, meaning they had more talent. You can't have it both ways. You're going to have to pick one or the other with me. And when you're talking about the rest of the games down the stretch, you have to ask yourself, how much is this team grown to show you that, hey, we can finish strong. We can go 9-3. We can go 8-4. I'm not completely bought into that only because if you had grown, you would have won one of those three games. I keep harping on those three games because I'm trying to give you, I'm trying to explain to you how important those three games were, not just to the season, but to the program as a whole. You picked a bad time to lose three straight games. Think about when we talked about Florida State going 0-4 and how much of a hole you have to dig out of because of how bad 1-4 looks. 1-4 still looks just as bad as 0-4. 2-4 still looks just as bad as 0-4. 3-4 doesn't look as bad as 0-4, but it's still fucking ugly. You understand? So you look at the next 5 games and you got 2 rival games in there. Rival games can go either way regardless of coach, regardless of player talent, regardless of rankings. They're rival games. There's a lot of emotion impacting to those games. You don't know how they can end up. So to assume or to say Florida State is going to win both of those games, that's a bit of a stretch. Knowing that both of those teams have looked like shit, Florida and Miami, I'm speaking of, they have looked really bad at certain points in the season. Well, Florida State hasn't looked that bad, thankfully, but how much faith do you have that Florida State can go in there and coordinate games and they're going and the players are going to make plays, they're going to be consistent, they're not going to revert back to who they were last season as it relates to making mistakes and shooting themselves in the foot and becoming a heavily penalized teams and missing assignments and also other shit. Like there were certain position groups that I was excited about before the season started, and I'll say the safety tandem was one, Akeem Dent and Jamie Robinson. And man, have they underperformed. They have underdelivered like a motherfucker. And partly one of the reasons why I was so excited was because I expected a lot out of Jamie Robinson this season. I expected this season to be better than last season. And I mean, he was a preseason All American. And you can't really put, listen, y'all know how much I want to blame everything on Adam Fuller. Like, if the team wasn't going to perform well this season, I was going to blame all that shit on him. I was just certain it was going to be his fucking fault. And I can't. His name for a long time was Adam fucking Fuller. And I can't even call him that anymore because a lot of this isn't his fault. I'm not saying he's been perfect because he hasn't. But you look at the way he's had to utilize Jamie and Akeem, and it's because of the poor cornerback play. And it's been lackluster. You haven't really gotten anything out of those guys as aggressive as I think Adam Fuller wants to be this season because you have these guys, most of these guys who in their third year in this system, they understand the verbiage of it, they understand their job, so that it's not any thinking, it's just more so reacting because you know what you're supposed to do. And for a good bit, these guys are in place to make certain plays and they just haven't. But getting off track a little bit, but you look at the safety tandem and Akeem Dent has been one of the worst players on defense. Like I don't. As I'm talking to you, I'm trying to think of a key play he's made, and the only ones I think of are probably penalties and missed tackles. Like, as much as some people I talk to want to blame the coaches, a lot of this isn't. Some of this isn't even on coaching. The players are just like coaches don't drop passes. Coaches don't miss assignments. Coaches don't miss tackles. People, coaches don't hold. They don't get PI calls, and we can discuss technique. I'm fine with that because technique in the secondary is fucking atrocious. There are some things I still want the wide receiver room to do better as it relates to coaching and techniques and things of that nature. But as a whole, the players aren't delivering like they should be. The players aren't delivering like we thought they would after going 4-0 because there were flashes of brilliance from those guys. When you look at Florida State being able to click on all cylinders offensively, that looks like a team that can consistently get you 35 points a game. And if you beat me after scoring 35 points a game, then you just shake hands and you go home. Mike Norvell has not complimented Adam Fuller as he should have this season. And he has put that defense in some very peculiar situations, and that's not fair to Adam Fuller. It's not fair to expect a defense that is hindered by injuries, and that's not all that talented to begin with, to go out there and continually get stops with their backs against the walls. That's what I alluded to earlier when I mentioned playing complementary football. That's coaching. So you couple coaching with the kids not making the best sound decisions. Well, not making the best sound decisions, I'm sorry, but you couple that with the kids not playing up to par, not playing up to their potential, you get 4-3. It's an odd place to be right now in the season because so much is riding on this season. It's an odd place to be because you have to ask yourself what's good enough. Seeing what you saw in the first 4 games of the season, knowing the potential of this team, knowing that for almost half of the first half they've underperformed, what's going to be, what is the end game? What are we looking for? What win total is going to be good enough to get job extensions, to get recruits, to get boosters, to keep pouring in money? Like, what's going to be good enough? And if we're being honest, 7-5 is more likely than 9-3. I think Florida State can beat all 5 of those teams handedly in at least 4 of those games. But can you trust them? What have they shown you throughout the entire duration of the season? What have they shown you thus far to believe that they can pull out beating all 5 of those teams? I think 2 of those are at least gimmies. So they get you to 6 wins. They get you to a bowl. You have 3 teams there where you're just wondering. Like, how, right now, how confident are you against Syracuse? Syracuse played Clemson better than Florida State did. And you can argue there was some cheating going on, as people like to call it. They probably should have won that damn game, and they didn't. And Clemson is light years more talented than Syracuse, but it's a good coach football team. Those guys know their assignments. They know who they are, and they go out there and perform every freaking week. I've seen them a few times. I wouldn't call it, well, yeah, fuck it, that is impressive. What they've done thus far is impressive. I already mentioned the 2 rival games, and I don't give a damn what you think about Miami and Florida. It's a rival game. Florida State should be both of those teams, but they're rivals. The end result here is important, people. It's more important than you may want to admit, being 4-3. Again, this is why winning at least one of those games would have set you up nicer for the second half of this season. Winning one of those games changes the taste in your mouth and your expectations about what you believe they can do down the stretch. Again, I have to ask, what the hell are we climbing? Because as much as people want to pounce on the fact that this team is injured, all teams are injured and hurt at this time of the season. And the fact remains, not my opinion, the fact remains, you still had enough to win. So when you take a step back and look at things for what they are, you're not as confident going into this 5-game stretch had they been able to show you some level of competency during that 3-game stretch in which they didn't win any games, in which they made head-scratching decisions, in which teams came into Doak Campbell and pulled out wins that they probably shouldn't have, when they went on the road and lost games that it was impossible to lose. Your expectancy and whatever meter you have as it relates to how confident you are that this team can pull it off, it's lessened. That meter lowers. So they've dug themselves in somewhat of a hole. How confident are you that they can get out of it? We're about to find out. It's all the time I'm giving you. It's all the time I got. I appreciate y'all pressing that button, getting on here and chatting with me, man. Get up under them comments, man. You know how we get out under the comments. You want to reach me on Twitter, you can get at me at the Hot Seat 19. You want to reach me on Instagram, you can get on me there at the Hot Seat 19. As always, I appreciate your time. So until next week, y'all be good.